Here's the eagle butt peacemaker. Solid ivory handle, Mexican. Only 30 of these ever made. Customized. Remington new model. Army 44. More accurate than your Colt. Had the wooden handles removed and replaced with solid silver. The Smith & Wesson Schofield 45. Just meat and potato. Me, Jesse James think it's the best handgun in the world. Had the trigger guard removed. It saves drawing time. Don't ever wear it when you're drunk or you'll kill your feet.
Upon the western frontier, the only first responder around would be you. The variety of frontier weapons depended upon the needs of those who carried them, from colonial times through the 1870s, and arguably still today. What is an adventure without the protagonist stepping off into the unknown armed against the beast and brigades who wait in the shadows?
You know that's impossible.
The tales of armed heroes facing down insurmountable odds has captivated adventurous minds since the age of the first storytellers. In the American West, the gun represents that rugged individual as the symbol of self-reliance and responsibilities. In settled towns of mostly law-abiding communities, pack and iron was often unnecessary. However, in the West, unsettled plains and mountains, travelers were compelled to go heeled and captured the imaginations of generations the world over. Just like today, gunfights were statistically rare occurrences, so arming up was more for providing meat for the table or warding off wild animals. Still, there were occasions where one also needed a deterrent against the two-legged beast who lived beyond the laws of man. The arms carried by prairie travelers and mountaineers. Firearms and edged swords are just like any other tool. Their various design characteristics gave them an advantage in approaching the specific task at hand. The typical armaments carried in these days of the American frontier usually included some type of long arm, a pistol or two, and a variety of cutting edges such as knives and hatchets. Among these would be counted long-bladed butcher knives, later to be replaced by regional toothpicks or even the Bowie knife. A hatchet, or tomahawk, served both as a useful tool as well as a devastating backup weapon. In regards to firearms, there were rifles, fowlers, shotguns, surplus army muskets, carbines, and even repeating arms as well as pistols or revolvers. Pistols were typically single-shot handguns, while revolvers most likely were 5 or 6 shooter revolvers. Small 28 to 31 caliber models were commonly called pocket revolvers. The 36 caliber revolver was often referred to as a belt revolver or as a Navy 6, especially in the later decades of the 19th century. The 44 caliber revolvers were called dragoon revolvers, batteries, or army revolvers. With each decade of American frontier history came varied climates, landscapes, technology, as well as social changes that dictated the rules of what weapons would be best. For example, the dense foliage with the smaller game of eastern forest meant hunters would likely engage their targets at less than 100 yards with a small caliber bullet. Open plains with big game required a larger board and longer ranged solution.
Legendary shot. You know your weapons.
The early West, from Ohio to Kentucky to the Rocky Mountain fur trade, this period really dictates from colonial times and continues well into the 1830s and 1850s expansionist era. Even today, much of this land still remains wild and untamed. Travelers of the period needed a reliable arm that could suitably take down game in the forest, but still be formidable enough for uninvited guests. This was typically a rifle or fowler, accompanied by a hunting knife and perhaps a hatchet or tomahawk. Over the shoulder hung a powder horn and a bullet pouch, and around his body was a leathern belt in which was thrust a large formidable knife. A loaded rifle lay carelessly across the rider's shoulders. The rifle alluded here would be called a flintlock. Indian trade guns using the same type of ignition system were also called a fusee. The pan and flint system would be the norm right up until the percussion cap appeared in the 1830s. But from the days of Kentucky backwoodsmen to the Rocky Mountain fur trappers and plain hunters, the arms lined up remained largely the same as noted from the 1840s era.
That which we are about to receive, we thank thee, O Lord.
Trappers were more apt to enhance their kit with a pistol or two added in anticipation of an armed confrontation with hostile Indians or desperados. Bonneville gave a description of arms carried by William Henry Vanderburgh when he was killed by the Blackfeet warriors in 1832. Many of the early frontier rifles in the eastern states were small bored or squirrel guns for a good reason, to take down such a game as squirrels, hares, muskrats, turkeys, and eastern woodland deer. While larger calibers did also exist, it was all about the economic advantage. Those who chose to spend their dollars on a big bored gun had good reason to do so, depending on their occupation or the game they hunted. Another favorite was the muzzle-loading fowler, or smooth-bored, single or double-barreled gun. These were the shotguns of the early frontier. They could use bird shot for small game and avian prey, or patched ball for larger game. Fowlers were usually from around 55 to 62 caliber, but could go up to about 79. The ubiquitous trade gun or musket and bore guns were typically fowlers. The Rocky Mountain fur trade and the Western trails. Following the exploration by Lewis and Clark, the West really opened up beyond the Mississippi through the plains, into the Rocky Mountains, and over to deserts, all the way to the Pacific coast. Before a network of national wagon roads was established, travelers were compelled to travel the vast country in groups for mutual protection. Weapons with superior range and power were required, and this is where a rifle throwing a larger ball really showed its worth. Big bore rifles were the weapon of choice for the life of the Rockies. In the mid-1820s, around the region of St. Louis and along the various trails west from it is where the custom-made Hawken rifle earned its name with Mountaineer for its superior range and ability to accurately stop large animals such as bison, elk, mule deer, and bear. Mountain man Dick Wooten wrote extensively on life in Colorado, New Mexico, and along the Santa Fe Trail. Many of those observations were in regards to the arms they carried along the way. He said, "Every man wore a full buckskin suit and a pair of moccasins, and a belt which he always wore. He carried a couple of pistols, 2 large knives, and a tomahawk. What we called a tomahawk was a kind of hatchet which we used to chop our meat up with, and in fact do all of the chopping that we had to do." Wooten also described a similar set of arms for those whom he had hired on to accompany his outfit, as stated in the letter dated June 24th, 1852. "I armed each of my men, Americans and Mexicans alike, with a first-class rifle, a pistol, and a knife, and thus equipped, we started our long drive." Uncle Dick Wooten, written in the 1890s. As emigrants headed west towards the gold regions, numerous guidebooks gave advice on what to take for the long trip. Every man should be provided a good rifle, and if convenient, with a pair of good pistols, 5 pounds of powder, and 10 pounds of lead. With the wagon, there should be carried with such carpenter tools as hacksaws, auger, gimlet, chisel, shaving knife, an axe, hammer, and hatchet. A brace of single-shot pistols was a common sight with long hunters and prairie travelers, but it was later to be replaced with the Colt revolvers and the various other brands to follow suit, especially after the Colt's patent expired in 1857. By that time, the revolver was the rule, while the single-shot pistol was now a relic of the past. Since the end of the 1870s to present day, the advent of metal cartridges has made carrying a single-shot handgun to be enough as a deterrent against would-be criminals. A shotgun or repeating rifle was suitable for traveling across wild country, but was normally unnecessary in town. Today's magazine-fed pistols carry more firepower than a hatful of percussion revolvers. Bowie knives have been replaced by more useful folding pocket knives. So in a way, pack and iron is not at all the sign of bygone times, but rather one step in the continuation of a very good old idea. It's another sign that America's frontier spirit isn't dead, but rather alive and well in the hearts and dreams of her sons and daughters. May it continue to grow for many generations to come. Thanks guys for checking out this video, and if you like this video and ones like this, please be sure to support the channel and share, like, and subscribe. And as always, get out there and explore the American frontier. Thanks guys.